Right, and here we go. We have F91 at the 12 o'clock position in green Zerg saying good game, good luck. And we have Pretty Girl, kOs, in purple Terran at the 2 o'clock position.
Pretty Girl in purple, who'd have thought? Now, I want to back up a little bit and talk about that comment that you were mentioning about Idra and how these things wouldn't succeed over time. I will have to definitely point out that there's a huge amount of merit in what Idra is saying, because the way that F91 plays, it's definitely the sort of play that can take wins off players. However, it's not the sort of play I would necessarily recommend if you were laddering and trying to prevent losses and that sort of thing. Because if you try really aggressive, nutty play like that, anytime your opponent does something you don't quote-unquote want him to do, it can totally screw you up. Like if a player just decides that he's going to make 2 bunkers and play really safe, your all-in can be totally screwed. You end up losing a lot of silly games with these aggressive plays that F91 uses. However, when you're playing in a series, that sort of aggressive play can be very, very beneficial. It can totally throw off your opponent. So even though it will, in fact, lose a good percentage of games, exactly the way Idra says, in a best of 7 or a best of 5 series, that can be incredibly instrumental in terms of bringing momentum onto your side. Like, for example, July 5-pooled best in their first game in the OSL finals. That's a great way to mentally screw with your opponent. I wouldn't recommend trying to 5-pool every game as Zerg necessarily, but definitely, when it comes to series logic, I think that this sort of aggressive play can definitely help you out, especially if you don't need to be winning every single game.
Yeah, I got to agree, and that's a big thing to point out when we get to these long series, where psychology plays a huge role and diversity plays a huge role. Something I want to point out right here, F91 sent his first Overlord, saw the SCV, and then ran away. So at this point, kOs has no idea where F91 is. F91 knows he's at that position. And we saw, I believe it was against Straylock, when this situation happened, we saw he went overpool, added a gas, rallied Zerglings, and just took him out. And I would have liked to see that style again. Actually, I copied that when playing Ret, and it worked beautifully. Now kOs gets lucky with that SCV, sees the Overlord just running to the cliff. It doesn't get there in time, so now he knows it's coming. So he did really get lucky there. F91 making 6 Zerglings. kOs, what is his build? He went Refinery before Barracks, now adding Factory before Marine. So he's going to have 1 Marine against this 12 pool, and it is a 12 pool, a very strange opening from F91. I would have liked to see overpool. I think it's much better for punishing, and looks like he's not actually going to try to attack with this. He deals with the SCV a little bit, now he's going, leaving 1 behind to attack, getting gas, so this is probably going to be another 2-hatch build, but really strange to see him opening 12 pool, not attacking, and then go into 2-hatch.
Really? I thought that was an overpool. Maybe I'm just totally mistaken. But yeah, this actually looks very much so like the opening that Jaedong did against Iris. The epic game where Jaedong was controlling 2 groups of Mutalisks in this unbelievably awesome fashion. So right now we do see that layer going down, and these 6 Zerglings are just going to take a brief poke and see that the ramp is being blocked. And kOs, I really like this build a lot. This is actually a build that I saw Nada use a lot against Go Rush in the You Are the Golf King MSL, where you get 1 factory and then just get some vultures and then you just expand immediately. Note that there's only 1 guy on that geyser. He's not going for any super crazy tech style build. He's just going to be getting in there early, trying to do some aggressive behavior, and then just backing off. I actually, now that I've gone on that whole rant, I'm noticing that kOs has a whole bunch of vultures queued up. I don't know. Okay, now they just finally got canceled. I didn't know if he was going to go for some sort of super aggressive early attack. And F91 is responding appropriately by getting a very, very fast Hydralist, and just to make a few Hydralists to block the ramp and to deal with some race while he techs to Aspire.
Yeah, I like that you pointed out Wraith, because that's exactly what I was thinking that would be the follow-up to here. The unfortunate thing for kOs here is he's moving out with 2 Vultures. They have no upgrades. There's no add-on on the factory complete yet. So F91 has chosen to play very safe. He's got a Sunken Colony up and 2 Hydras. There's really nothing kOs is going to be able to do here. One thing he's going to get out of this is that he's going to be able to put up his expansion basically with no threat of attacking. But again, we see the Spire coming up very quickly. 2nd factory going up for kOs. And again, he's not going to be able to scout it. I guess he could run in a Vulture, try to run around. Did that SCV see the Spire? It's very possible that it did. Let me just take off vision. Okay, it's impossible to tell, but I don't know if it saw the Spire. It may have.
I mean, whether it did or whether it didn't, I'm just shocked at how long kOs is waiting to get this armory. He did scout his opponent going 2 hatch fast gas and getting, which obviously means he's going to be getting a layer very soon, and if that's the case, I would be getting Goliath as quickly as possible. I would be throwing down the armory in a second factory very, very quickly. But kOs is getting mines, adding more vultures, and only now is the armory getting somewhat close to finish. So I think this is going to end up the exact same way as it did last game. But look at this! Oh my god, F91 is running a whole bunch of slow Hydras to hit the expansion from the back. kOs just doesn't have enough units to deal with this. Looks like he's just going to be sending a whole bunch of SCVs and Marines to try to take it out. Let's see if he ends up holding. He is in fact able to kill off a few vultures with those Hydralisks. The Hydralisks are kind of being a little annoying, not doing any severe damage. But this is going to make kOs make a few too many vultures. It looks like kOs again opening up with the sort of vulture harass, and we go back to F91's main and see that again Mutalisks are getting built.
Yeah, the story behind this build, F91 was actually recently on a Chinese program that was similar to BNet Attack, where he plays, a bunch of scrubs on BNet, and he off-raced a Terran twice, and twice he lost to this build. And what it is going 2 hatch layer, getting a Hydralisk den kind of early, and making, 5 Hydralisks, and just attacking with them, and the only purpose of that is just to be annoying, and then the Mutalisks come and clean up, and this destroyed him twice, and now it's kind of interesting to see him using this build. He should be going in, looks like drones coming to block the ramp on these vultures, Sunken doing some good damage there. Now he's got, it looks like 7 Mutalisks. He should be able to fly in and just clean this up. There's no engineering bay. Again, vulture speed is being researched, not even Goliath range is researching, so this again should be over very quickly.
Yeah, see here's 2 Goliaths coming in. We have SCVs clustered around to try to repair, but these Mutalisks are just going to do a little bit too much damage with no range being upgraded. 1 Goliath falls, 2 more Goliaths pop out, but still it's not going to be enough against these fast 6 Mutalisks. We see more Mutalisks being built from F91 and being rallied to the main of kOs. No engineering bay done yet, and that Goliath is being repaired by a bazillion SCVs, yet still falls. It is just Frowntown in Chaosville.
Frowntown indeed. Looks like this one is for the books, and we're going to have F91 going up 2-0 against a Korean ex-pro gamer, and in very easy games, really. I mean, kOs has not made it past the 8-minute mark, it seems, thus in 2 games. And there's GG, so that's going to make it official. Wow, already up 2-0 after about 20 minutes of work for F91.
Yeah, it's kind of funny that all our viewers ended up waiting about an hour and 15 minutes to watch 2 14-minute games total. In either case, I think that's sort of a good illustration of the subtle difference between a coach player like kOs and then someone I would consider like a really high-level pro gamer, is that a lot of the high pro gamers would see 2 hatcheries and immediately know that they need to get Goliaths as fast as possible. Sure, you can do a little bit of cute stuff like make a bunker and expand and that sort of thing. In fact, that's actually great to do. I totally recommend incorporating that into your play. However, you need to get the armory really fast. Even if your opponent doesn't decide to go fast Mutalisk, getting Goliaths out of 2 or 3 factories is more than enough to deal with any sort of 2-hatch play.
Yeah, I find it interesting. These looks like, he really has a tendency to favor the mech play, so I would imagine if he's favoring mech play, he should know that style intimately. He should know the timings and should know if 2-hatch is coming, I don't need this many vultures. I don't need vulture speed. Like, what? I don't know what he's thinking, and it's going to be interesting, at least for me, to see if he reverts back to this mech play, if he's going to figure it out throughout this series, or if he's going to go into kind of robot mode and just fall to the same thing over and over.
I think it is important to point out that the underlying idea of kOs's play is still really strong. Rather than directly dealing with Mutalisks, it's sometimes better to indirectly deal with it by getting so many vultures that you kill off all your opponent's drones if they decide to attack you. So that's also a good thing to try to incorporate into your play a lot. A lot of times players will do things that are a lot more direct in nature. They'll see lurkers coming and they'll go, oh, I guess I need to get a whole bunch of tanks and detection and this sort of thing. But sometimes it's better to do things like get a dropship so that you can counter your opponent in that fashion.
Right, I agree with that. Unfortunately, for kOs in this situation, that only works if you're stalling for something else. Say he delayed his armory and instead got an engineering bay, and was putting up a lot of turrets, so that at the time when his vultures were harassing, F91 had to bring back his Mutalisk. By that time, he's missed the timing to attack with the Mutalisk, and now all the turrets are up, and kOs feels kind of cozy moving into the mid game. The situation I'm seeing kOs play with F91 reminds me of someone putting up a contain and then not doing anything behind the contain. So imagine a Zerg player with a bunch of lurkers. Protoss moves through that. Unfortunately, Zerg has been doing nothing behind that, and now that he's through the contain, he just goes and kills Zerg. So I see kOs doing something nice to pull the mutas back, and the mutas are coming back to deal with that, but then they're just going and killing kOs anyway. So I really think he's got to, be doing something in the meantime, and there needs to be a little more thought behind the follow-up. So I guess let's move on to Game 3, given that Game 1 and 2 have followed similar styles of analysis. Game 3 is going to be on Neo Harmony. What are your thoughts on this map?
I mean, this map looks standard, but it plays out weird in my experience. I just feel like it's a really weird map. Even though everything's arranged in sort of a very Lost Temple-y Luna style way, you have your natural, and there's all these naturals lining the edge. This weird bridge structure and this high ground in the middle, and in particular this little narrow side door to your natural expansion, it's just weird. I mean, like, a lot of times a Terran army, I'll look at it and go, oh, that's not a big deal. I could totally deal with that. But then it gets in that little crack, and I end up totally screwed. So a lot of this game is about where things are positioned, and you'll always see players running units around in all sorts of odd formations along the middle, trying to control key points. And I definitely think that that plays to both players' strengths, because kOs is so solid and has that, pro gamer coach understanding, and F91 because he's very aggressive and very tactical in nature.
Right. I definitely agree, especially about this little side entrance. If the Terran player decides to go mech and gets anything at all behind that little wall, it's just like, I'm just crying my eyes out as I'm trying to deal with that. So that's going to be something interesting to look for. And another thing that's going to be interesting to look for is, it's kind of, there's a few options where to put your third hatchery. We've seen people take the third base of another main. Sometimes they take another natural, sometimes another main, sometimes they take their own third base. And because they're spread out facing different directions, that's really going to matter a lot about what strategies they're doing and where the other player is located, because a lot of these bases kind of they're easily defended by other mains as opposed to your own main. So that, I think, on this map especially, where the player spawn is going to make a huge difference. So with that being said, let's jump right into it. This is going to be Game 3.